What's up, everybody? It is your boy Toxie Boyo. It's also 4:51 a.m. at the time of recording this. I don't sleep as much as I should, but the state of the world right now has kind of changed a lot of things in the world of entertainment, or at least for the time being. And one of those fields kind of has and kind of hasn't been gaming. Like, games are still coming out and DLC is still being worked on. Master Roshi's coming to Dragon Ball FighterZ, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion both seem to be on track to come out when they're supposed to. But another game that seems to be coming out on schedule is Marvel's Avengers. Now that game is got a lot of people concerned, and I kind of understand why. Now, this is probably, hopefully, the last time I'll ever have to talk about this game on the channel. I think I've talked about it 3 times before, and I want to move on. This will be, hopefully, my Reaper death sealing jutsu, and I'll never have to talk about the game again. But the game comes out pretty soon, like sometime either mid next month or late next month, something like that. And the beta, or at least the closed beta for people who pre-ordered the game, just recently came out. First of all, I hate betas being used as pre-order incentive. A beta is supposed to be a test, a public test, a testing phase that you use to collect data, receive criticism, and you use the time between the end of the testing phase and the release of the game. Maybe you might need to delay the release of the game depending on exactly what you have to work on, but you use that time to tweak the game until it's in a state where it's able to be released, right? Now, based on the way that I just explained the beta, you would think that you would need a couple of months at least to make sure that you got everything right. Square Enix is giving themselves a couple weeks, There's just not time to do hardly anything. Right? Now, this is coming from the perspective of somebody who has not pre-ordered the game and has not played the beta. I have watched about 9 people play it, though, so I'm not going to talk about how the combat feels or anything like that, because I can't speak to that. But I will say that from what I saw, the combat looks interesting enough to entertain the most casual gamer. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of room for complexity or anything like that, which is kind of disappointing, because coming off the heels of a game like Ghost of Tsushima, where learning how to master each complexity and intricacy in the combat system is paramount to you being able to finish the game, you have to learn how to play it in order to succeed. It feels like Marvel's Avengers is not going to be a skill-based game, and that's okay. I mean, Spider-Man from 2018 isn't exactly the hardest game. Neither are any of the Arkham games. Well, the Arkham games inject artificial difficulty. That's not what we're here to talk about, though. I want to talk about how... Okay. This is completely off topic, but I just want to point out that Crossbones' voice in that game... It's Crossbones. Taskmaster's voice in that game pisses me off. I don't know why it's not just the guy that voiced him in the Spider-Man game, because he did a great job, but for some reason that's just not what they want to do. Anyway, I have seen many graphical bugs. I've even seen one where Thor's character model gets replaced with Captain America, so Captain America is flying through the air next to Iron Man, which is very funny. And I get it, right? This is a beta, so any performance issue that I've seen watching people play this could be ironed out. But let's be honest, the game comes out in 3 weeks. Hard copies of the game have probably already shipped. So this is pretty much what the game is going to be when it comes out. There might be like a 65 gigabyte day one update or some shit like that to try to fix things, but I honestly think that most of the data that they've collected over the course of this beta, they're going to address that in time. They will be releasing updates over time to put the game in a truly playable state. I've also seen that the game has frequent frame drops, and if you play it in 4K, or, 4K, then there's this, like, sickening motion blur on it, and it has even worse frame drops. I've seen instances where, like, multiple copies of a character will load in and be completely uninteractable. I've seen characters, like, not actually have walk cycles. I've seen characters not load in correctly. I've seen characters interact with with invisible walls and ledges, and it's like, yeah, games have bugs, and it's not fair to highlight all of those bugs, but it's like, come on, dude. You know? There's no time. There's no time to fix this. This game needed more time. It should have come out next year, or they should have used the time they had better. You know, I don't know what exactly what, like, the crunch culture is like over there at Crystal Dynamics, but clearly they did not spend enough time getting this game ready. And I'm not going to talk about, like, the characters' faces because it doesn't matter. What I will talk about, though, is cosmetics. Because apparently as soon as you boot the game up, it's like, hey, Fortnite. You heard of Fortnite? So first, because this is how Square Enix has to do their games, whether you're playing Hitman, Tomb Raider, whatever, when you boot the game up, you got to make a Square Enix account, which is frustrating enough already. Luckily, I already had to do that when I played Rise of the Tomb Raider a couple years ago. So I still have that one if I ever do play this game in like 2 or 3 years ago. But after that, you get an ad for Fortnite, where if you link your Square Enix account to your Epic account, then you get in-game Fortnite content. Right? There's also what has basically the aesthetic appearance of battle passes for each character, where you unlock, like, cosmetics and stuff like that. Who's texting me? But instead of it being generally or genuinely cosmetics, it's kind of just like an item that you get, because what it really is like, if you want your character to be dressed in something different, you get a whole suit, you know, similar to how Spider-Man is, right? And different combat stats are affected by, like, your suit mods, your suit powers, and whatever web gadgets you have, right? But in this game, it gives you the illusion that if you're Iron Man, you can have different gauntlets and they have different stats. Like in God of War, you could have different like, you could have a different, like, axe pommel, or you could have a different wrist armor and shit like that, and it would actually be aesthetically different, cosmetically different gear with different stats. But this game, at least as far as I can tell, does not do that, because let's be honest, this is a live service game, right? This is a game that they will be supporting for much time after the game releases, and they will need to fund that support somehow. So cosmetics are going to be a large part of how they make that money. So they can't really jeopardize the potential to make money off of cosmetics by giving you customizable cosmetics that you earn in the game. Now, I'm aware that there are plenty of skins you can unlock for the characters in the beta, but we have no idea how much that is going to transfer over to the regular game. Also, when you look at each tile, there is some space on the bottom for there to be, like, a paid tier of each item, you know? Kind of the way that that Modern Warfare has their setup. And I feel like doing that for each character would be really scummy, like really icky. Also, this game doesn't need to be a constantly online live service multiplayer game. This game does not need to be Destiny. You know, this game does not need to be Anthem. This is an Avengers game. What's wrong with just hopping on as Iron Man and just flying around and blowing shit up? I don't legitimately see the purpose of the game being in this style of video game. I don't see how this benefits the players in the long run. I'm also just not interested in the plot of the game. Oh, the Avengers were fucking around with shit they weren't supposed to, and now everybody's an Inhuman because Terrigen missed, and now here's AIM, and so of course there's gonna be MODOK. And it's like, okay. I like MODOK. I really do like MODOK. I've always liked MODOK. I wish that he had been the villain in Iron Man 3. when I was a kid and I found out AIM was going to be in Iron Man 3, I was like, MODOK. But that's not what happened. Anyway. From what I've seen, right, this game is a cut below Batman Arkham and Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man 2, Ultimate Spider-Man. It doesn't give the impression that it's a game made out of passion and love and respect for the franchise that it is being made for. It just kind of seems like Square Enix was like, hey, you know what would be cool is if we put out an Avengers game. And honestly, I'd rather play Ultimate Alliance 1 or 2 or 3. I haven't played 3 yet. I've had a Switch for pretty much this entire year. Have not touched it in about 6 months. And that being the case, I haven't played Ultimate Alliance 3 yet. I really want to, though. That was beside the point. Something else that I will point out, though, is that they are handling exclusive content very poorly. Games have had exclusive characters per platform for a long time. You know, Soul Calibur 2 had Spawn on PlayStation and Link on GameCube. And actually, I don't know who on Xbox. I don't even know if that game was on Xbox. Soul Calibur 4 had different Star Wars characters for different platforms. Mortal Kombat 9 had Kratos on PlayStation. You know, but if you're gonna do something like that, you have to offer something for the other guy. You know, if you're going to put Spider-Man on the PlayStation version of the game, what do Xbox players get? What do PC players get? You know? If you're going to make Spider-Man PlayStation exclusive, I get that. Sony, whatever. It makes sense to me. But for Xbox, why not put Ant-Man? Or for PC, why not put the Winter Soldier? You know? Give people a reason to buy the game on other platforms. I know Ant-Man and the Winter Soldier are nowhere near as cool and as marketable and as much of a guaranteed sell as Spider-Man, but to be honest, consider the following, right? This is not a first-person shooter. This is not an MMO. This is not a MOBA. And this is not an open-world RPG game. It's not going to sell extraordinarily well on PC. And considering that there are over 110 million PS4s in circulation and about 40 million Xbox Ones in circulation, the game is going to sell more on PlayStation than on Xbox. That's why they can get away with putting Spider-Man on PlayStation, because no matter what, they're going to sell more copies on PlayStation than anything else. So why not incentivize more people who are possibly skeptical about getting the game in the first place but still have a PS4 to go ahead and buy the game? That's really scummy in my opinion, and I feel like it is intentionally divisive of the fan base. I personally would be excited for Spider-Man to be on the PlayStation version of the game if I cared about the game at all. And that being the case, I don't know which Spider-Man it is. I don't know if it's Spider-Man from the PS4 game. I don't know if he's going to be voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. I don't know anything about this version of Spider-Man. Because from what I can tell, Marvel's Spider-Man and Marvel's Avengers take place in different universes. Which I don't know if that's a good idea. I do think that interconnectivity could be beneficial for the game universe that they're trying to build, especially because they're calling it Gamerverse. It should be a verse. Of course, don't shackle these games to each other, but you know, some guest appearances. I don't care. A long time ago, I suggested that instead of Kamala Khan, that the player character should have been Miles Morales from that game. I kind of still stand by that, because there's no reason that Miles couldn't have had that adventure and then gone on to have his own adventure in his own game. It would have been cool if the ending of Marvel's Avengers influenced the ending, or influenced Miles Morales' game that's coming out on PS5. It doesn't need to have a 100% concrete direct impact on it, because you don't want people to feel like they had to play the last game to play this one. That's the kind of thing we're trying to avoid. We don't want to duplicate the MCU, we just kind of want to inherit some of the spirit of it, if that makes any sense. Now, beyond that, if you have Verizon, you get certain skins for the characters. 5,000 Verizon users actually got the game for free. That's disgusting. Why does my phone provider determine whether or not I get skins in the game? You know, I can't make that make sense. If you buy packs of 5 gum, you get exclusive skins. That, in and of itself, isn't abhorrent, but considering Virgin Mobile users in the UK get exclusive skins, that's really weird. That's really weird to me, and it's not a good omen. Nothing about this game so far has been a good omen. I also don't like Nolan North as Iron Man very much. He just sounds like Nolan North. If you watch Retro Replay, then you know what Nolan North sounds like on his own. And if you hear Iron Man talk in the game, it's just Nolan North, you know? Maybe that's not the worst thing in the world, but it is kind of off-putting. Maybe that's just me being salty because I want to be a voice actor, and my favorite actors keep taking on roles. But I also want to touch on the fact that it is a live service game meant to be supported long after its release. A lot of games that go for that model end up falling by the wayside. Who's still playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint? Who's still playing Mass Effect Andromeda? Who's still playing Anthem? Who's still playing, what's it called? Fallout 76. You know, EA abandoned support for Battlefield 5, and they weren't even done releasing content. You know, Fallout 76 tried to introduce a paid subscription service to play the game. Most of the games I just mentioned were from the last 2 years. You know? And it's really disappointing, because if this is going to be the Avengers game for the next 4, maybe 5 years, Square Enix is really going to have to go full in for a penny, in for a pound. If you want this to be the only Avengers game that you put out for a long time, you have to commit. You have to consistently make it worth playing day in, day out. This is a loot-driven live service game. It's engineered to be played for hundreds and hundreds of hours on end. But if the gameplay is really basic and samey, and the game functions like utter garbage, and you have cosmetics and characters locked behind paywalls, and what console you have and who you pay your phone bill to, you're just not going to bring in the amount of people that you need in order to sustain a game like that. I don't have any numbers, but I have to assume that a great many people are turned off by how Square Enix is handling this game. I think that this is a very poor business model for what should be the most anticipated game of 2020. This game should absolutely eclipse Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Call of Duty Black Ops 5 if that game actually does come out this year. There should be no game that can stand up to it except for Cyberpunk 2077 if that game comes out this year. But instead, it's a game that there's people defending online, but most people just aren't really interested in right now, at least not anymore. If your favorite character is Kamala Khan, cool. But my favorite character is Captain America, and he gets blown up in the first mission, and so the entire premise of the game is forcing you to think he's dead, but you know he's not dead. He's Captain America. And there's also skins you can buy for him, or skins you can unlock or earn or whatever, these challenge packs or whatever. Would they really put that in the game if he was only meant to be there for one mission and then like some combat simulations you can do? Of course he's gonna come back. That's a stupid way to build your premise. It's like if you went and saw Justice League and really thought Superman was never gonna show up. Like, considering that most of the people who bought a console and are going to buy the game are old enough to earn the money with which to do said thing, you would probably think that they have a couple brain cells to spare and can figure out that a character on the cover of the damn game isn't going to permanently die 20 minutes in. So yeah, duh, he's gonna be back. And that's another thing that turns me off from wanting to play it, is that the game seems to think that the audience is stupid. I can't get behind really any of it. Like I said earlier, the gameplay doesn't look very fresh or interesting or innovative or exciting in any way. The fact that it's online is probably going to inhibit a lot of people, because from what I've seen, getting a game online was pretty difficult. And I don't want to hear it's only a beta. If the game is supposed to function primarily as an online game, if you're releasing a playable version of the game to the public, the way it's supposed to be played should probably be possible. You know, the Black Ops 3 beta, you can get a match just fine. Battlefield 5 beta, you can get a match just fine, at least in my experience. Why not here? The Anthem beta, I actually really enjoyed the Anthem beta. I thought it was really cool, and then the game came out, and there were a lot of problems, and EA got into a lot of trouble. You don't have to talk about that part. That part does not matter as much. But another thing I want to say, though, is people legitimately seem to think that because this is a beta, that the game that comes out in 3 weeks is going to be miraculously completely different. A, how? B, why would you think that Crystal Dynamics would put so much time, money, and resources into building an alternate, playable, accessible to the public that pre-ordered the game, version of said game, if the final product, or if this playable version of the game is not going to reflect the final product at all? If it's going to be this completely night and day different game, what would be the point in this version of the game being the beta? Because then you're almost false advertising. You're giving people a false perspective of what your game is. That just doesn't make any sense from a business perspective. People are like, come on now. Come on. I know a lot of you guys are smarter than that. Don't say stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense. Quite frankly, the game can't hide behind the defense of it's just a beta, because the game comes out way too soon. With all these factors in mind, I can't get behind this game. And I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. Right? I'm not going to tell you start hashtag boycott Marvel's Avengers. But I am saying keep everything that I've said to you in mind. Right? Like, you're going to be paying $60, maybe $80 for the game. And then you have to pay on top of that for cosmetics. And you have to deal with, you're going to have PlayStation Plus or Xbox Gold if you're going to play this game the way that they want you to play it. And they might abandon service of the game. Say you buy a season pass, you know? Because you want to play Hawkeye when he comes out. By the way, Hawkeye should not be fucking DLC. Not after the MCU. He should not be DLC. He should be in the game. I'm sorry, that's a non-starter. Anyway, say you buy a season pass, right? And then they pull an EA, and next year they just stop supporting the game. But they start this really sick plot thread, right, where it's like you have to investigate, I don't know, Trask Industries or something like that. I don't want it to all be companies. There's actually a completely different corporation that I was trying to think about. It's not Oscorp. Believe me, it's not Oscorp, but it's also not Parker Industries. Is it Essex Corp? No, that's Mr. Sinister. For some reason, I really can't think of what it's called, but point is, they start this really cool plot thread where you have to, like, investigate this other company. It turns out that fucking Doctor Doom is behind the whole thing. And it's like, oh, we gotta fight Doctor Doom now. And then they just pull the plug. You know, that's what happened to Pacific Theater in Battlefield. Why wouldn't it happen here? Why realistically would it not happen here? I think Square Enix is trying really hard to tell you not to buy the game. But trust me, that's not what I'm here to do. You can make your own decision. But if I were to tell you how to spend your money, you could consider checking out the Patreon. That would be very helpful. Because I built this whole little Discord server and nobody's in it. It took a long time. Anyway, that's been me ranting about Avengers for a good while, without even having played it. Hopefully that doesn't destroy my credibility. But until next time, this has been Toxie Boyo, assembling the Avengers, and signing out.